Wow, Yvette, that was an amazing tour.
Oh.
I learned so much about you, and I now have so many more questions to ask.
Oh, good, good. Looking forward to talking to you some more.
We all have dreams, but there's something special about the Caribbean dream. You're already in paradise, but you're taking a risk going to another part of the world to pursue those dreams and make them a reality. Today we have a very special guest, celebrity publicist Yvette Noel Schure, who has represented some of the most iconic music artists in the industry, including John Legend and Beyoncé. And she's also from the Spice Island. Welcome to Caribbean Dream once again, Yvette.
Thank you. So honored and just really, really, really honored to have you in my home.
So since you are from the Spice Island, Grenada,
Yes.
Where exactly is Grenada? I've never been there before. What part of Grenada
You're
are you
missing
from?
It's the best island in the world, I'm just saying.
Where is it exactly?
It is one of the most southern island. It's right under Trinidad, and it's part of the Grenadines. So if you look at the map of the Caribbean, there are these islands that are all the way at the bottom, and Grenada is one of them. It's directly across from Venezuela. It's a very tiny island, but it's three islands in one. It's Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. And between those three islands, we have about 110,000 people. So it's kind of what you run into when you go into a New York City subway, basically, right? So it's really small, and you get to know everybody, and it's extremely mountainous. So
really,
yeah, it's a good place to get in shape very quickly. A lot of hills,
lots of hills,
yeah, lots and lots of hills. Great vegetation and smiley people, for the most part.
What town are you from?
I am from, well, it's less of a town, and we're sort of divided into parishes. So
More
the
of a
parish
city?
is important first,
Okay.
and then the village. So I'm from St. Andrew's Parish, and my village is Birch Grove. And we also want to say that Birch Grove is the best one. Lots of farmers in Birch Grove, very green, sort of self-starting business people. You know, my grandmother used to say, you throw a little seed in the backyard in the morning, and you wake up the next day, you have a mango, and you take that mango to the market on Saturday. You got some pesh money to give to the priest on Sunday. You know, it's just a really small community where everybody gets along, where every mother feels that you're their child, and they have the right to scold you and advise you and give you something to motivate you, so you're not a scoundrel, that you grow up to be something. Yeah. So that's how I grew up.
So that's how you were raised?
Yeah.
This episode of Caribbean Dream is brought to you by Pure Grenada, the spice of the Caribbean.
What kind of little girl were you growing up? Were you a shy little girl? Were you really playful? Were you outgoing?
You know, I changed my thought process of looking back every time I'm asked, because I think because when I try to answer the question, I see myself at different stages. So I think that I don't think I was ever really shy, but I think I got really intimidated very quickly. But my curiosity solved that. Because as much as I didn't really want to be the center of attention, I wanted to know everything. So I would never leave. Children were supposed to leave. When adults came in the room, I would always find a way to hide behind the sofa or something.
You needed to know what was going on.
Yeah, I was nosy. I was really, really nosy.
Thirst for knowledge.
Thirst. I was a very good reader.
Really?
And I was a speaker. I was really a talker.
And how'd you develop that sort of
My grandfather.
skill?
My grandfather. He had the gift of gab. He would hold court in his store, you know. And I used to watch him and just listen to him and learn from him. And I feel that I got my training in the church. You know, like people who sing will say that, but people who talk, in my case, I used to read. I used to read the second reading in the Sunday Mass, and I really heard my voice. I heard it echo in the church. I was like, oh,
felt empowered by that.
I felt empowered by that. Yeah, and then I had a paper route. And I still love words. I would read the paper before I delivered it, and like correct mistakes in the paper. And so like the older people, they started complaining that I was marking up their papers. But then they also said, what a bright child, you know? And so anything I said to my parents, my grandparents, because my parents, my mom and my dad had traveled to the US, and we lived with our grandparents. So anything I said to them, because the rest of the neighbors was saying, that child fast, yes, but not fast as in what a rude child. It was fast like that child nosy, you know. So, and it's like, feed that, feed that, you know. So thank God, my grandfather, you know, I always say to everybody, my grandfather was the first feminist I knew. He believed in the equality of the sexes, that if my brother could drive, I should drive. My brother's reading, I should read. So he gave me wings. Papa gave me wings to just sort of feel like I could be anything that I wanted to be. Never felt intimidated by the need to dream. I felt like I was really aware that I was dreaming.
Is that a quality that's hard to find in I don't know, a Caribbean gentleman?
Oh, yes.
Because are women supposed to stay in the women's role and men supposed to stay in the men role?
Well, luckily not so much today, because we've got some really good Caribbean men that are feminists. But I think back in my grandfather's day, he was one of a kind.
Very special.
Very, very special.
It sounds like he really gave you the opportunity to just like stick your hands in whatever you could and just like be a well-rounded woman, you know, not just one way.
Oh, he did. He put me sit down on that supermarket counter, and he took all the Coca-Cola bottle tops, he and my aunt, and they spread it out on that counter and taught me how to count and taught me how to run that shop without a cash register or a calculator. Taught me how to count 7, 8, 10, 12, 15 numbers in a row without my fingers. Everything that I was as a child, everything I am as a woman, I credit my grandparents, and in particular, my grandfather. Yeah.
I'd love to know more about your grandmother too.
Oh, she was special. She was beautiful. When my youngest child, Milan, was born, I saw everybody's face in her. I saw my grandfather and I saw my grandmother looking back at me.
How did that feel?
Overwhelmed. I knew she would be my last child, and I said, I finally got everybody back. She was absolutely beautiful inside and out. And for a long time, she was legally blind.
Oh.
And then an incredible thing happened in Grenada, incredible for some, bad for others. We had a revolution. And we got the most aid from the Cuban government. And with that aid came medical aid and medical doctors who came to Grenada. And my grandmother was one of the first people they saw and said, "You're not blind, you have cataracts." And I flew home. And she had that surgery.
And she could see after?
And she could see after that. She said, "You're wearing a yellow dress." I said, "I'm wearing a yellow dress!"
That is amazing.
Yes, yes.
That is such an amazing story that we're going to continue to dig into that right after this quick break we're going to take.
Thank you.
Stay tuned.
So that I can wipe my eyes.
This is Yvette's Caribbean Dream. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Caribbean Dream. So Yvette, you've told me some incredible things about your grandparents. Tell me about your parents.
Wow. Dennis and Carmel Noel. I'd like to think they're sitting at a really nice throne in heaven. Lost them both. Although they were not the primary parents, because my grandparents took that role, they shaped me in ways that I don't think they knew.
How so?
Well, my father, like my grandfather, was primarily a cheerleader, and he would cheer you on for getting 95 on a test, and that was normal for parents. But then he'd have a whole party. He'd throw a whole party. He'd order a cake from
Very
Baskin Robbins.
supportive.
Yeah, like, you know, I remember one time I got 100 on a Spanish test, and he invited all his friends over, and he said, Yvette, speak Spanish to them. I said, Daddy, I don't speak Spanish. I just studied really hard, you know. So, but my father had a very tragic life. He came to this country. He had 5 jobs, like every other Caribbean man.
5 jobs.
I mean, like, yeah, basically was burning the candle at all ends, and had high blood pressure and suffered a massive stroke, and pretty much lost his ability to walk, and not a lot of movements in his hands, and his voice lowered. Just really debilitating. And he was sick for 28 years.
28.
28 years.
That's a long time.
While he didn't die a physical death when he had the stroke, he really suffered, and he saw all our progression from a hospital bed. And I have pictures of bringing the babies to him, and his hands was sort of coiled from the stroke, and I'm standing there looking crazy because I'm just like, make sure we take the picture quick before he drops the baby, you know. But he was always a major part of our lives, and sort of rooted us on from his hospital bed. My mother, beautiful like her mother was, and the purest heart I've ever known, and very, very honest in her thinking. And later on, I realized that part of that honesty and that rawness and that natural way of being came from her mental illness. It stopped her in a way from getting old, and I don't know if anybody that really has studied psychology and biology know what that connection is, but she didn't really age. You know, and she didn't have a dirty sort of way of looking at people, so she was always
so she
happy.
was never jaded.
She was
by
never
life.
jaded. She's remained a kid for a very long time, you know, and
It's kind of refreshing.
yeah, it was really, really refreshing. And I think a lot of my heart and how I love people comes from my mom, but she really suffered, and she suffered with a disease that is still in the Caribbean. I don't think we recognize or really want to talk about, and I am a proponent to talk about it. And every day I wake up, you know, when I go to my little altar with my ancestors, it's like, not today, mental illness, you're not getting me today. And if you do, I think I have what it takes to sort of call somebody and say I need help. And I think she's taught me that, you know. But losing my mom almost about 3 years ago now was probably my first encounter with heartache. You know, I lost my dad 6 years before I lost my mom, but losing my mom.
The woman who gave birth to you.
Yeah, but also, you know, my mom became my child because she was so sick. So I lost my mom and my oldest child.
So you took care of her.
Until that morning that she closed her eyes. She lived in this house with us for a little while, and yeah, she was very, very special. When she found out that I was a publicist, she said, so these people can't talk for themselves? They need you to talk for them? I said, I love you, Mommy, I love you. And then when she discovered that one of my clients was Beyoncé, my mother studied French, and so she put 2 and 2 together, like, that's a French name, okay. So one day I went to visit her, and I came from tour, and she said, how is the French girl?
That's how she
that's how she
described
associated.
Beyonce.
Yeah,
That is so funny.
Yeah, so she was very childlike in her way of seeing the world, and very loving, and like I said, very honest. And it was the single most important relationship in my entire life. Nobody, not my children, not my husband, and not my career could give me what she gave me. Just open and honest and just full of love. My mother, towards the end, was in a wheelchair. And I feel that when I walked into the nursing home that she got out of the wheelchair. She felt like she could do a cartwheel because I was there.
Oh my God.
She was intense with her love and demonstrative and loud. She was loud. I loved that she laughed so loud. And she hugged everybody, and it's kind of who I am. And my mommy. She'll always be my mommy. She was special, and I take her with me everywhere. Everywhere. That woman was so special. She'd be, "Doctor, have you met my daughter?" I said, "Mommy, he met me yesterday." You know, yeah, she was special. And I thank God for choosing these vehicles to bring me through. Yeah. It's made me strong and sensitive and a crier, as you can imagine.
So what is the experience of having like a family separation as parents go over to the United States to work, and then half the family stays in the Caribbean? What is that like to experience
Difficult. I had joy and love and food and laughter and religion and education and everything I needed that my grandparents provided. But there was a moment where you realize that you're with your grandparents. Where are my parents?
Did you feel like a heartache in that realization of being away, of her being away from you?
Yeah.
When you were a child?
Yeah, and
Did
a
you
couple of
understand what was
times
going
I
on?
didn't understand what was going on because I knew that, I knew that there were people that were less fortunate than me, and I knew there were people that had more than me. So I knew that I was okay being in the middle. My grandparents provided, so it messed with my mind. And why did my mom leave? Because she had everything she needed. Her parents had everything. So in my mind, everything I heard is that Caribbean people, immigrants, leave to get a better life. And I'm like, but you had a better life. And it's not till later I found out that my grandfather wanted her to get help for her mental illness, and that's why she left. And then when she left, then she sent for my dad, and so then my dad sent for us, and so she came to get help. And all of those years of not being with us, she still didn't get the help that she needed, because when you have a Caribbean accent and you go to get help, they test you, they treat you as a guinea pig, and they were just giving her medicine that was not really helping her symptoms. And when I came to this country, and I was 14, and I said, no, I'm going to fight for my mom. So I got her properly diagnosed. You know, we understood that it was bipolar, and it wasn't something else that they thought, schizophrenia or whatever it was. And imagine they were treating her for schizophrenic behavior, but she was really bipolar, and it was
You're trusting these doctors.
You're trusting them.
With her life.
But the thing that got me to be her advocate more than her daughter was that I was sitting in a waiting room while my mom went into the doctor, and I heard them talking to her, kind of talking down at her, and she had this, and she literally was just like, but I don't understand what you're saying. I don't understand what you're saying, and why you just have to tell me what is working. And then I just couldn't take it anymore. And I said, excuse me, you can't talk to my mommy like that.
Good.
And I talked to my uncle, and we got her properly diagnosed. And that day, I must have been like 15. It had to have been about a year after I got to this country. And I said, I will take care of you until you leave this earth. I will take care of you. And thank God that I found a man like David, who, when I said, Mommy's coming to live with us, said, all right, which bedroom you want her in? You know? And sometimes I think she loved him more than she loved me. She just loved David so much. He's the one that had to break the news to me that she passed away, because I had dozed off, got up at a strange time in the night, then went back, and he got the call, and he just let me sleep, and then told me, because we had left her 2 hours before she passed away. But you didn't ask me that, but this is an essential part of our lives, me and David, and the connection to my mother. When my mother was dying, we kept saying, wow, mommy's still here. She's holding on. David came to me and said, I know what's going on with your mom. She wants to get her final blessing. I said, why didn't I think about that? And I looked at him and I joked with him and I said, you don't even go to church anymore. How do you know that? And he left this house at 11 o'clock in the night, banged on the priest's door.
Oh my goodness.
Like the police was stopping him.
Yeah?
Like, so what you doing? He said, my mother-in-law is dying and I need her to get her last rites. I will never forget that man. We raced to the nursing home with the priest.
Wow.
And he prayed for her. And I saw that she was finally ready. And that's when we left because like, oh, I don't want to be here for that. But it was David that gave her that spiritual sign-off that he knew she wanted, because all of the time this career kept me away from my mother because I was working at a tour or doing something overseas. David was the one that was with her, going to check on her, even when she wasn't sick, not having an episode. He just sat with her and talked to her. So, yeah, she was special, and when she was here with us, it was special. She couldn't cook for anything. She was not Caribbean in that way at all. She couldn't cook, but she was special.
This episode of Caribbean Dream is brought to you by Silver Sands Grenada.
When you were living in the Caribbean, what responsibilities or chores did you have as a child that made you so work-oriented?
You ever heard a Caribbean older person say, you want to eat in this house, you have to work?
Yes, my grandmother.
That was us. My grandfather had the shop. We all had to put in hours in the shop to help. He had the nutmeg farm. We all had to peel the nutmegs. He had the banana farms. We all had to wash the bananas.
How old were you when you were doing those sort of things?
From day one, maybe from 5.
5 years old.
And between 8 and 14, I was doing the shopping for our grocery store. I was getting on the bus. I was very short. That's when I was allowed to wear pants, because I couldn't wear a dress to climb up on the bus. So I was only allowed to wear pants when I had to go to the market, and when we were like in the rainy season and we had sunflies, you know. But other than that, I had to be in a dress, and I would just climb up on the bus and go and shop for the store. And working was just what you did.
Just a way of life.
I had my newspaper out. I shopped for the store. I helped in the garden. It teaches you something. It teaches you about ownership. You know, my grandfather said, this is your store. You will inherit the land around the store. And he would always say, even the church is on our land. This is our land. You know, that this is yours, but you have to work for it. And so I just always did. It was just this is what you did. When you woke up in the morning, you made up your bed. You started with the smallest thing that was yours and your environment, and that was the bed. And then the other thing that you did was you picked up after yourself at the kitchen table. You put it in the sink and you washed it, you know, and you didn't just put it in the sink for somebody else to do it. You know, we lived in what I called a home that was a nuclear family.
Was it a strict household?
It was strict, but it was still a lot of love too. I mean, did I get spanks? Yeah, because I was talkative and I didn't know when to shut up. And so every once in a while I got pinched a little bit. But I just never thought they were punishing me and how awful they were. I was like, wow, these folks really love me, and they're going a little extra because my mom is not here or my mom is sick, you know. Yeah, but I was grateful for that. I wouldn't change, when I tell you I wouldn't change anything about my childhood, I wouldn't change anything about my childhood. I think if I had to make a major change, it would change everything about me. Because if the one thing I said I would change is that I would not come to America or any other country because I love Grenada so much. I would want to stay in Grenada. But then I would not have met my king. How would I have met my king? He never heard of Grenada, right? So there was a reason for me to be here. There was a reason for me to come and help my mother to get the proper diagnosis. And no, I would work just as hard in my next life. And I say every day, I can come into some serious money right now, and I would want to keep working, and I would want to keep giving back, and I would want to see every day a step in the right direction of making a difference in someone else's life, because that's what people did for me. That's what my aunts did for me. That's what my grandparents did for us when they took over from my sick mom. You know, that's what my uncles did for me in America, and I think that's why I surround myself with really good people, friends that become family very, very quickly, and it's the only how I know how to live. Work hard, play hard, love hard, give it all, give it all. Live so full that you die empty.
I see how all of that has shaped you into the woman that you are today.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so.
There's something I want to show you.
Ooh, my.
And I want you to take a look at this young lady here and tell me if you recognize her.
Okay, so, oh, I do.
You can hold it. And what memories come up for you when you look at that picture?
She was so smart. She was really a smart girl. And she never had to dumb herself down for anybody because she was elevated by her grandparents, and her whole community loved her. And
What's she wearing?
she's wearing her convent school uniform.
How old is she?
I think here I was about 13. I had just passed common entrance, and I had gone to Form 1 in convent. And
Did you like going there?
I loved it.
What's one of your favorite memories there?
I loved it. My friends.
Her friends.
Laurel Alexander and Ozra John. My friends. We played tennis and dodgeball. And my grandmother would put bleach on my socks so that they would stay white. And my sneakers, we didn't call them sneakers, we call them washikan. That was my washikan. And there is a beautiful woman who has my last name. She's a designer from Grenada. Her name is Yvette Noel. And she had a fashion show where she started her fashion show with a convent schoolgirl. And I saw it. And I had to find her. And then another friend of ours sort of connected us. And I posted this photo on Instagram next to the little girl that she had in her fashion show, and I said to her, why? And she told me that her mom went to convent. This is the uniform, this was the uniform of St. Joseph's Convent in Grenville and St. Andrews, where I grew up. Yeah, oh wow, my ribbons and my hair.
You look so cute.
That's me, that's me.
So what are some of the biggest values that you take away from growing up in Grenada that have contributed to your overall success now?
Work hard. Work hard. Be kind. Make the most of what you have, but never stop reaching for more. Do really, really, really well by others. Treat them the way you want to be treated. I was always a sensitive girl, and so I was always in tune to other people's feelings, so I didn't want to hurt anybody. Back then I wanted to be a nice person, but I've learned that nice is sort of patronizing, but kind is actually powerful. So those are the things I learned that sort of sustained me, and those are the lessons I passed down. Yeah, I think they're simple. It doesn't pay. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't take any money out of your bank to make someone feel good. You don't know where that person was, where they grew up, where they went, what they're going through that day. To make a difference in somebody by simply giving them a compliment. You look so amazing.
Yes, the little things you can do change someone's entire day.
For a girl who woke up saying, I don't like my nose, I don't like my hair, I don't like that, and you see her and you say, you're beautiful. She's like, what? Huh? What? I was that girl.
Those are some incredible stories that you shared with us about your childhood. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about your transition to the United States. Stay tuned. This is Yvette's Caribbean Dream. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Caribbean Dream. We just finished up with Yvette's childhood and heard some incredible stories about the very humble beginnings that have shaped her into the magnificent woman that she is today. Now, we would love to hear about your transition coming to America.
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
Terrible. I didn't want to leave my grandparents at all. And it was December. Now, if you know anything about the Caribbean, if it's not Carnival, that's people's favorite, December, when Christmas is coming around, is when you get apples. Apples.
Okay.
After growing up just like eating a mango every day, I love mangoes every day. But come November, December, apples start coming in from America. Like, line up for your apples, you know? And we were gonna leave, my brother and I were gonna leave. And I was just like, no, I'm gonna leave Mama and Papa and no apples. And I remember my aunt, Mommy Castle, said, but they have apples in America. And so my brother and I came, Pan Am to JFK in December 10th, 1975. And we flew to Trinidad. And we stayed in Trinidad for a little while on the airport, and then we got on the plane to come to JFK. And when we landed, my father met us, and he had this little coat for me. And clearly that coat, if Mommy came, she would have brought me a coat. Daddy brought me a spring coat. And the first time I felt cold, I was ready to go back. I just wanted to run back through immigration and get back on the plane and go back. It felt like my whole body was shivering. It snowed the next day when we got to Brooklyn. First of all, got to Brooklyn, 836 Utica Avenue, 5-floor walk up. What? We live in an apartment? Daddy, what's happening? You live in an apartment?
What were you expecting?
A house! I was leaving a house. I didn't know apartments. There was nobody living in an apartment when I was growing up. Yes, there are now. There are beautiful apartment buildings in the Caribbean, in Grenada. No, everybody had a house. Little house, big house, small house, little house. But it was a house. And so, staircase? What is that? And you turn 4 locks on a door? I was like, whoa, it wasn't for me. It snowed. And I remember saying to my brother, Trevor, that thing reminds me of what's in the freezer in Papa's shop when it's time to clean it out. And we just started laughing. Wow, the stuff that's in the freezer is falling from the sky. It was insane for me. I wore open-toe shoes thinking that I was still home.
That's a culture shock.
It was...
Coming from paradise beaches to the freezing cold December in Brooklyn.
Horrible. Went to school like maybe a couple of days after I got there. We were enrolled in school. It was coming to the end, so it was kind of short. And then we would start again after the holidays. Got teased so much because I literally went to school with strappy shoes. And... you
must have been freezing.
Freezing and ashy. How about that?
You get
freezing
frostbite?
and ashy, not frostbite. I would have taken the frostbites over the ashiness. It's like, get that Vaseline, girl. You a little ashy, you know. And my father was such a put together man, but he left early, so he didn't see me with my open toe shoes, and And so finally, I think one day he must have seen that, and he said, "Why aren't you wearing your shoes?" And I said, "Because that's what, And it's funny because my kids used to tease me because I think in the winter, I didn't wear socks for something like years. I had my kids and everything already, and I was going out freezing because something was so stupid about that, but it was so nostalgic for me. It was so nostalgic for me.
Not to wear socks.
Not to wear socks, because then I would never give up Grenada. If I gave into those socks, it meant that I gave into that cold, brutal country where people didn't say good morning. Where I said good morning on the bus and everybody looked at me like I was crazy. So I held on to my toes, my cold toes. It's crazy the things that you do. I had a coat, had a sweater, had a scarf, toes freezing, toes, And one day I said, okay, Yvette, come on, put your boots on. It's like 30 degrees.
Not in Kansas anymore.
You probably, you know, you're not in St. George's. You are not, that white stuff under your feet, it's not the sand on Grand Anne's Beach. It's actually snow. But I think in my mind, I was trying to hold on as much as possible to what was not just sunny and bright, but it was my paradise. And it's not necessarily the mountains and the greenery and the beach. It was really the love and the protection I felt being with my grandparents. That was very difficult for me. And then coming and facing with my mother's reality of her illness.
What was that like?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, I grew up overnight.
Right.
I grew up overnight.
So you took care of
and
her.
not in the way that girls grow up having a boyfriend and stuff. I just, in terms of responsibility. You know, and I also realized that my father was coping with high blood pressure and that he wasn't taking care of himself.
And you also went to school.
And I was
same
going
time.
to school, yeah.
And where'd you go?
I went to Winthrop Junior High School in Brooklyn. And then I went to Erasmus Hall High School.
And what was your experience going to school in America?
It was terrible. It was terrible.
You were bullied.
I was bullied. I was bullied. There was a Jamaican girl. I will not give her the credit to say her name, but she was terrible to me.
Really?
Yeah.
You think that you
when I heard the accent and I thought, well, we're together.
Yeah.
We're alike. But she was mean to me. She was really mean to me. But this is what saved me from the bully. I never had to be in the clique. I never had to be in the crowd because I had a responsibility, my mother. So I escaped the bully because I could run from school before she caught up with me and get on B35 bus on Church Avenue because I had a date with my mother at the G building in Kings County where they kept the people who had mental illness. And so every day, that's where I went. I did my homework. Some days she knew me and some days she didn't. I combed her hair. I fed her. I did all of those things and nobody knew.
And she really seemed to have kept you focused on what really matters in life, even if it's like taking care of family, you know. So of course being bullied is horrible, but you know, you're able to shift your focus from that and like, it's more important that I take care of my mom, don't let that bullying get to me.
Exactly. In my mind, without having the education at the time to verbalize it, in my mind I was saying, you think that's a problem? I got bigger problems, you know? So, yeah, and I remember going back to a class reunion to be the keynote speaker, and I said, I can finally reveal to all of you why I ran out of the school for 4 years every day. Because there were times my mother would spend up to a year in the hospital, you know? Sometimes her illness was about an episode that lasted a week, but often it was 3 months to a year. And so that was a routine. I couldn't join the boosters. I couldn't join the cheerleaders.
Did that affect your grades?
Not at all.
Oh,
not at all.
You're a straight A student?
I was a straight A student. Yeah, I did my work. I was doing it for me and my mom. Yeah, and I knew my middle place in my family was really important. I had younger sisters that were looking up to me, and I even had a beautiful, fragile sister that already saw my strength and said, well, okay, little sister. You know, so I had a lot to prove.
So at what point when you were in America did you decide that you wanted to become a publicist?
Well, you know, my life changed at 17 when I met David.
You met at 17?
Yeah, I met my husband at 17. You can do the math. I've known him now for 40 years. And I told him what my dream was, to be a journalist. And we met the way two lions will meet in the jungle. Boom! It was combustion.
Where?
At Burger King. Yeah, but it was like these two forces that came together. We had nothing in common and
just attraction.
Yeah, and then I think once he believed in my dream and pushed me and remembered to go and get the form for me to fill out for college and all this stuff because,
So he was there from day one.
I was a bad little girl. I was a good little girl until I met David, and then I was like, hi, and then we started living together like immediately, and then my parents were like, what is going on? And and so once he actually also believed in the dream, and I went to college, and I knew from my paper route in Grenada, I wanted to be a journalist. I just love words and I love correcting it, and I went to City College instead of going to UCLA or anywhere outside of New York because I wanted to be with my boyfriend. Girls don't do that. It works for me, but don't do that. Don't follow a boy to school and don't do anything for a boy. They'll be there. There are lots of boys. But I knew then that I really was serious about being a journalist. But at that point, I was thinking hard news journalist. But then my sensitivity wouldn't allow me to do that. I had an internship that put me in the middle of hard news, and that was not for me.
Covering crime stories. I
was like, no, I can't do that.
Just super objective,
super objective,
horrifying things.
Like, what is that?
You're not allowed to express any feeling.
What does that mean to me? Like, how an emotional, sensitive person like me could cover a crime story in the Bronx where a young man is killed and not have any emotion?
Yeah.
You know, so I was like, that's not for me. And then I got the call from a friend who had already been working for the same publisher that was putting Black Beat out, and then I started working for Black Beat, and then spent about 9 years there, and then went over to Sony Music.
Was there ever a moment where you just had to deal with like obstacles or struggles just to just get to that point?
Oh my God, yes.
Do you ever want to just like give up, go home?
All the time. And you know, I hope I'm not painting this easy path for you because it really wasn't at all. You know, when I got to Sony Music, and this may come as a real surprise to a lot of your viewers, but when I got to Sony Music, there was one box that I brought from Black Beat magazine that when I emptied it, I never threw it out. I kept it at the bottom of my desk.
And what's the meaning behind that?
Don't get comfortable. You don't own the joint. They can fire you any moment. You have to be able to take the things that matter to you with you in that small box. And every day I came into my office and I kicked under the box, to feel that the box was there.
To remember.
Yeah. Every day for 17 years. Every day for 17 years, that box was there. I don't even think my staff knew the box was there. Yeah.
That is an amazing story, Yvette.
It just keeps you on your toes.
We're going to dig a little deeper into that once we come back.
Awesome.
This is Yvette's Caribbean Dream. We'll be right back.
This episode of Caribbean Dream is brought to you by Dasani. Hydrate your body, hydrate your mind.
Welcome back to Yvette's Caribbean Dream. So you were at Sony for 17 years.
Yeah.
You have a box under your desk that you're kicking every day to make sure that you don't become complacent, don't get comfortable. But just so that everyone's clear for those at home that may not know, what exactly is a publicist? What does the job entail?
Yeah, I actually think that what the definition is probably in the dictionary as well as in journalism classes and public relations classes in college doesn't always define what we do. I think what you're supposed to do is be the rep for a product to get through the public, through the press, right? So you're sort of like the middle. And the product could be a product, could be a person, could be a brand, an album, a
And you're
movie.
maintaining an image.
And you're retaining an image, you are executing someone's plan, you are putting the narrative out there that they want, you're making sure people have access to their content, but you have to use the press to do that, right? So press outlets, and in my case now with, let's say, like an artist like Beyoncé, you can also, and she cleverly so uses her own sort of distribution of her narrative through her social media platforms and so forth. But the essential job is to represent a brand, a product, a film, whatever, through the press. So I negotiate placements and a story, and it's all timed to a marketing plan. So you want the New York Times review to happen just as the album is coming out, because if you do it 6 months in advance, people are going to forget, and eventually what you end up realizing what you are as a salesperson, right? Because you're trying to make a connection between the product and the public, so that eventually it will mean that someone would buy the product. They will believe in the product. They will become that loyal fan. That's what classically it's supposed to be. But I've done other things. You know, I'm
Like
very
what?
much a part of the philanthropic side, making sure that people understand that artists are not just about the content that they put out, but it's also about their heart and what they give back to
That's
the world.
really important.
Yeah, so
Fans really connect with that.
exactly. And I do a lot of artist development. You know, I take on young artists where I teach them how to do an interview, how to control your narrative, how to say what you mean. And do what you say you're going to do.
Having integrity.
Having integrity, because you really are building a relationship with an audience that you want them to be loyal. Yeah, I think I'm a little bit of a mastermind. You know, but for me, you know, I obviously studied journalism, but then I also took public relations classes to kind of teach me about different media. And now with digital media, you have to understand what that means and the immediacy of that, and how it's very hard to take that back. Whereas, you know, the New York Times in the back in the day, on paper, ooh, something is wrong. Well, you know, you wrap fish with it 2 days later, and people forget about that. And
Twitter,
you know, but now
people remember what people tweet about.
Exactly.
So there's a publicist like
different.
Monitor what a celebrity might put on Twitter, just like protect them from saying something maybe they shouldn't say.
I try to protect them before they say it.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've been really blessed to have artists that really understand that, and the importance of being someone with integrity, and that everything you put out in the world is there for a very, very long time. So knock on wood, I don't think I've had a lot of issues with artists that I had to sort of tell them not to embarrass themselves. I haven't really been in that position too much. Yeah.
What made you decide to leave Sony?
Wow, that's a really good question. I think initially I felt that I had done everything I could do in that position. And I think physically I felt that the walls were closing in on me. I felt like I had hit the ceiling, and that I was being all the things I didn't want to be, which was I was getting comfortable. And I needed to challenge myself more.
So what was the next step for you?
Well, the world was changing. It was becoming a digital world, and I was stuck in doing traditional publicity. I needed to grow. I needed to push myself, and I just felt like it was time. I loved everything about Sony. I work every day with the Sony people still, and there's some of my best lessons ever. Nothing bad to say about Sony. All praises to some amazing people that gave me some chances. Larry Jenkins and Rob Stringer, who's the head of Sony. You know, actually, I had no motivation to do anything else but leave and breathe.
So what did you do first?
Well, first I went to visit my dad, who in the hospital looked at me like, "You crazy?" You know? But my dad was dying that year, and I didn't know it yet. So I think in a way God pushed me to leave so that I could spend more time with him. But I just wanted to be a beach bum. I wanted to go to Grenada a lot.
So you went back home.
I went home. I went to Antigua. I went to Vegas. I was just living. I was having a great time.
Was that like an opportunity to just rejuvenate and reconnect?
Yeah.
Kind of center yourself after feeling complacent?
Absolutely. But then my husband started pushing me like, "You too good to want to do nothing." And so I came back from one trip, and we had taken a lot of family vacations, but I'd done something by myself, and I came back. Maybe I went to visit my friend in Antigua, I can't remember. And I came back, and he had these papers. You know, he had these papers, and he said, "You should take a look at that." And I said, "What is Schure Media?" At the time, it was Schure Media, now it's Schure Media Group. He said, "It's your company." I said, "What? What do you mean it's a company? We founded a company?" It's like, yeah, that's our company. He had done all of the homework, got the business license, got whatever it is we needed. Because that part, I'm just like, what? We had to do all that, you know? And I said, oh my goodness. But you know, before I left for that vacation, I think the reason he did it, it's because I had gotten a phone call, and when I decided to leave, and it was Beyoncé, and she said, well, I still need a publicist. And I said, I didn't know what all the legal stuff was with Sony and whether or not I could have a Sony artist deal and stuff
Take
like
a client
that. And
with you.
she made it very clear that I want to work with you. And so I was like, wait, maybe I shouldn't be a beach bum. Maybe. So, you know, it's really a good thing to say that I started my company with one client. One client. I had one client. It was Beyoncé.
So how long were you working with her? Just one client? You just stayed with her for how many years?
Well, I had worked with her throughout the whole Destiny's Child era. So I had worked with her pretty much every day since Destiny's Child was formed.
How many years is that?
Well, I got to Sony in 93. Destiny's Child came on board in 96, 97. And Beyonce's first solo album was 2003. Her second album, 2005. Then there was a Destiny's Child album in between there. So I was part of all of that.
Wow.
Yeah, and so when I left Sony in 2010, there was like no Beyonce album that year, but then she was gearing up for 4, and then it was just, there was all the stuff. So she was basically like, we can't miss a beat here, you know? Yeah, so, but I stayed with that one artist for a little while. Like when the company, I think our company was probably a good 2 years before I took in another client, really. We might have done little things here and there, a little UN concert there, that kind of stuff. But for the most part, it was one client. And then we went on to have, we had Prince. I didn't work with John Legend at our company. I worked with John at Sony. I love John. We've remained very good friends. I miss him as a client. Yeah, he's a good guy. But yeah, Beyonce.
What's it like to see someone's career just go from this little thing to this enormous world superstar, and you're a part of that?
It is having a front row ticket to a masterclass and watching the definition of hard work.
You just witness.
That is what it is. It's a front row seat to watching somebody work hard. There is no cutting corners. Nothing was handed to that young woman. Absolutely nothing. Her heels, her knees bled for her to learn every one of that choreography. She stayed in that studio until she got that note right that she wanted to get. She stayed until she wrote the song she wanted to write. First one there, last one to leave. If she could work that hard, you can work hard too. If you become a little bit, if you have a little bit of contribution to make in someone's dream, you've got to take that and really magnify it. If you're given the key piece of the puzzle, you better take that piece out of your pocket and put it on the table so that we can complete the puzzle. So I understand my role, and it's quite small in the scheme of things because there's so many other things to make the puzzle work. But you have to understand in your small puzzle that it's the greatest piece. And that's how I see it. I'm like, I don't do all the work because there's a videographer, there's a choreographer, there's a stylist, there's a this, but that piece of my puzzle is important because if any one of those pieces are missing, the puzzle is not completed. And in being the person whose dream is in the middle of it, you're also the maestro because you have to find the right people that know when to put that puzzle piece down.
So it takes a team too.
It's a team. It's all about a team. So, everything that works well is a team. A family, right? What we do in business, what you do in business. We're sitting, we're talking. Somebody's behind the camera. What, could you have run the camera too? Well, maybe you could have set it up, but then you know what I'm saying? Like you need a team.
Everyone's contribution is valuable to the overall completion, right?
You know why everybody's contribution is valuable?
Why is that?
Because everyone is valuable.
That is beautiful. Well said. Do you still work with people that are just starting out?
Absolutely. It's what drives me.
Ah.
Oh, it makes me hungry. It keeps me hungry. It keeps me hungry.
So that's also what keeps your passion alive for
yes,
what you do.
and it keeps me young. Are you kidding? Got to go for youth. You know, I mean, working with Prince, Beyoncé, you know, having worked with John, worked with Wyclef on solo things, you know, like things like that. These amazing artists, started with Mariah Carey, and then they told me there are these two sisters named Chloe and Halle. I was like, yeah! And I always joke that I'm trying to get out of the business and they keep pulling me in, you know, because they're pulling me in with these great talented people. It makes me have so much love and hope for the business, because the business of music is really the business of all our lives. We're shaped by music everywhere we go. Every part of our lives we punctuated with music. Sadness, happiness, music. Happiness, you get married. What's the song to be played for my first, right? Someone dies. What was their favorite song? What would be the song that sent them off and at the same time make everybody else who loves them feel comforted? Music, music, music. The guy wants to propose. What's the song should be playing when I propose to my girl? Like, you know, it's music. We've learned through the digital age that you take music, you consume it differently. How your purchasing is different of it. Your streaming and downloads and all of those. But the need for music has grown. And so to be a little part of an industry that may not be thriving in a certain area of like physical sales and stuff, but it is mushrooming in the way of the new world. And guess what? When you're an old G like me, you better learn the new world, because somebody else is going to step all over you if you don't, right? You have to constantly learn. You constantly have to learn. And as women in particular, you got to pull that up and do it, because when no one expects you to, you have to prove them wrong. I have a friend, her name is Elaine Welteroth, and she was the former editor-in-chief of Teen Vogue, and she just wrote a beautiful book, and it's called More Than Enough, and I am plugging her book away because it's the book that every young girl should be reading, every boy, every girl in the Caribbean and elsewhere should be reading. And this is what it says. When they try to shrink you, expand. That's what I do every day. Every day, in racist situations, and in situations where they want you to feel less powered, I expand. Because I'm not doing it for the person that's trying to step on my neck. I'm doing it for my angels. I'm doing it for my ancestors. I'm doing it so when they lay where they lay or fly where they fly, they can look back and say that me doing that back-bending work, picking up those nutmegs every day, cutting those bananas every day, cleaning that cocoa every day, has resulted in somebody who is going to pass it on to the next generation. So don't try to shrink me. I'm still that girl from Grenada with my flat nose, with my high cheekbones, that had Grenada in my blood, that I have soil coming out of my pores. And I'm always going to remember that. You have to as well. And you have to let your audience feel that. That everybody matters. Everybody brings something to the table. And there was always someone that laid down the carpet for us, laid down their hearts so that we could fly.
Wow, that is amazing. So we are going to continue right after this little break. This is Yvette's Caribbean Dream. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Yvette's Caribbean Dream. So we were just discussing how you've worked with so many big name artists and helped them develop their career into some of the world's greatest that will go down in history. And you were saying that you also still work with people who are just starting out. But for those that don't have access to you, what's the best advice that you could give them? They're just starting out.
Just don't give up. You know, it's so easy for someone to step on your dream. And I think it really takes a lot to keep at it, to know in your head this is what you were born to do. You know, because I really believe in the principle that there are two very important days in your life. The day you were born and the day you find your purpose. And when a child finds its purpose and say, this is what I want to do, I want to play the guitar, I want to sing, I want to do this, and someone crushes that dream, it's the worst thing in the world.
I know the feeling.
So, you know, you have to keep at it, because I always tell young artists, because sometimes I do my best to just sort of mentor people that I can't really work with, but I just want to give them some advice. And it's usually just believe it all. Years ago, I used to believe that you have to have a plan B.
You don't?
I don't no longer believe in a plan B. I think plan B takes away from all the energy you need for plan A. And so I don't get to plan B until I really, really don't have a plan A, and then I call it plan A part 2. I don't want to ever get to a plan B. I just feel like you've got to keep going. You have to believe it. You know, our second child, our oldest daughter, Mika, went to school in Boston, has a communications degree from Emerson College, but she truly just wanted to dance. But, you know, Caribbean mothers say, you have to go to school. You have to make us proud. You have to go to college. She went to college, did great, amazing student. She's a beautiful ballerina today.
Wow.
She handed us the degree and said, you can frame it, but I'm going to dance.
She did it all.
Yeah.
And didn't let anything stop her. Wow.
Yeah, we couldn't stop her. And, you know, I think I'm a little powerful. I couldn't stop her, you know. What happens to us if we stop dreaming? What? Right?
Almost like we have nothing to live for.
Nothing. You know, and I think that the Caribbean dream is a different kind of dream. In that it's not always laced with greed. It's not always laced with desperation. It's always laced with, we've had our own and we want more for the next generation. It is laced with this boldness, this audacity that most of us grew up with, knowing what is possible. Why? Because when I was growing up in Grenada, the Governor General looked like me. The Prime Minister looked like me. The teacher I admired looked like me. The doctor that treated me looked like me. The dentist that said, looked like me. Had the same little Caribbean flat nose and high cheekbones like me. And therefore I knew that I could be, because I had seen what I could be. I had all of these choices that looked just like me. Caribbean people, particularly those of African descent, come with their dream with a fervor to succeed. And it's not because we didn't succeed before, we just want to succeed on a bigger scale. And it's not because we don't know money, it's because green's a better color sometimes. You know, I mean, it's just there are people who generally dreaming of getting away from abject poverty, right? And political persecution. Most people in the Caribbean, maybe there's poverty that you're trying to get away from, but most people don't want to leave that beach, girl.
Paradise, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so your need to succeed in a foreign land is most of the times about going back. Doing so well that you can go back. You think you have a different dream though, right? When you are going away from political and religious persecution and you can't go back. The thing that makes Caribbean people walk with that sort of swag is because you mess with me, I can always go lay on the beach. Right? Like, I can always just make some coconut oil. I can get the dashin because I can use every single part of that plant. The top green, the stem makes some serious soup. The potato kind of one gives me my starch. We have resources. So don't step on me. Don't step on my dream. I know what I'm here for. It's so important to know what you made of, what you come from, because you can clearly pave the road of where you're going. Just got to keep at it. And you have to not listen to the negative voices. Easier said than done. And that's why you have to surround yourself with the people who want for you even more than you want for yourself. When you succeed, they succeed. You know, I do something, my sister calls me, yeah, girl, I felt that. I saw that, you know. You have to do that.
When you came to America and you saw that there were people that looked different than you doing all these things, didn't like make you feel as though maybe you weren't able to live up to that because you look different than them?
No, at 14 it was already in my mind that everybody I knew was successful, and not successful by American standards, billions of dollars in the bank. I don't think you can keep billions in the bank, but whatever. I just knew they worked hard, and I saw that my uncles, they came to America, and within a year or two they bought their homes, and that they were taking jobs that were probably beneath them, but they felt that they needed to do what they needed to do to succeed. So I just never felt, you know, like I've never been the only black girl in the room and felt I'm the only black girl in the room. I was like, I'm the only black girl in this room and I'm gonna shine. You know, and it's my father. We used to call him a show off. Yeah, so my cousins would say, girl, when I get nervous about making a speech or something like that, my cousins or my sisters will say, just show off like daddy, you are Noel. You are Noel. Just show off like daddy. Let daddy just, you know, let daddy propel you, you know?
I think there's a lot of hungry talent in the Caribbean.
Oh.
Music artists and everything.
Okay, so Grenada?
Yeah.
Grenada, you know, Trinidad has the cream of the Caribbean when it comes to calypso and soca and stuff like that. And Jamaica with the reggae, and Haiti, you know, zouk and things like that, right? Grenada surpassed Trinidad the last time, and yeah, my God, like little Grenada, the guy won. He won the Monarch. We were like, what? So now Grenadans are like, come to Grenada for the true talent, you know? We got some good people there. There's this guy named Mr. Killer. Mr. Killer is the Michael Jackson, Prince, Beyoncé of Grenada.
Really?
Yeah, he just puts on a show. So we have talent in the Caribbean, and not just in music. We have amazing designers because, you know, we're textile experts from the very beginning. What is now couture is like, what? Couture? Women were sewing amazing pieces for carnival costumes, their children's uniform, wedding dresses from day one. So we need to tap into our shine so that we can light up the path for everybody else. I really believe it.
I believe it too, especially when I hear it from you.
This episode of Caribbean Dream is brought to you by Flow.
So what advice can you give to a music artist in the Caribbean who wants to make it big, like Rihanna or Nicki Minaj? Like, how do they make that transition to come to America and do the same thing?
It's, you know, the funny thing is Rihanna being such a star of the Caribbean didn't make it easier, right? Because now it's like, now they're like, well, we have a Rihanna, so we're going to look for something else, right? So what else comes from the Caribbean that's not really like Rihanna? Because who else could be Rihanna? Rihanna is Rihanna. So I think yes, the journey could be a little harder, but here's what I believe. I believe that you have to be the biggest fish in your pond so that you could swim with the sharks. So people want to make it big in America, but I believe that in America too. As a publicist, I've always taught my artists, let's go regional. Let's go regional. Let's go on a small tour. Let's have DC falling in love with you and Atlanta falling in love with you. So by the time you're ready, New York is ready for you, LA is ready for you, London is ready for you, Sydney, Australia is ready for you, Auckland, New Zealand is ready for you. But you have to start and be big where you are. Right now, I think Mr. Killer is ready for the world stage.
Really?
But nobody outside of him winning that monarch in Trinidad, knew of him outside of the Caribbean. But when he did that, people were like, what? The little island that could. So I think you just had to keep at it, keep at it. You know, like, kill it in Grenada, kill it in the Caribbean region, then go to all of the spots around North America that have Caribbean people and people who love Caribbean music, and conquer them. And now with social media, those people start your tribe. They start your tribe. And actually there's a huge following for Caribbean sounds in the UK. Because that's one of the first places Caribbean people went. It wasn't really America. It was the UK to build all those railroads and things like that, I think in the 40s and 50s. In fact, someone corrected me and said that Caribbean people were going to England as early as the 20s.
Wow.
I didn't know that. And probably before that. Isn't that crazy? And I thought, oh, our history of coming to Europe and America started in the 40s. They were like, are you crazy? Like, way, way before that. Yeah.
I saw another interview that you did where you mentioned fake it till you make it in terms of like going after your dreams and achievements. What exactly did you mean by that when you said
Well, I
it?
think I was talking, someone had asked me about advice for an artist, right? And they were saying to me, like, at what point do you get a publicist like me? And I said, when you could afford it. And then they started laughing. But then I said to them, but seriously, you don't need a publicist right away. You just need the cousin that did really well in their communications class. And let them write your bio and let them make the phone calls for you. And do you have a friend that studied law? Let them look over a contract. Like, don't spend money. First deal with the favors. Fake it. You know, I'm so-and-so and I'm not the publicist, but really you're the cousin. You know, so, and then because people, no one believes you if you brag about yourself, right? They almost think you're vain, but you need someone else to say it for you, right? She's fabulous. They're like, oh, really? But if I say I'm fabulous, like, ugh, she's so vain. So that's why you have to fake it. You got to get all these people talking for you, that I'm the lawyer, I'm the this, I'm the that. And then they think you have a whole team. That's what I mean by that. And then after that...
That's a great piece of advice because it's something that anybody can do.
Anybody can do that. Everybody has a writer in the family. Everybody has somebody who they think they're a lawyer. They can argue you the most. You know? Get them to look it over. You took a few law courses, take a look at that. Tell me, did that say that I'm going to get $30,000? You know, and who's the math genius in the family that'll tell you those zeros mean something? You know, zero's supposed to mean nothing except when there are a lot of other numbers in front of it and you add more zeros, it means a lot. But if you're a kid just in the basement making music and you don't think about those things, figures, percentages, it's not just about entertaining people and being a superstar. It's about what happens when the tide turns and another young artist comes up and you're not relevant anymore and you get into that nostalgia and then even that starts fading. You want to know that when you were in the prime of your career, that you studied enough and you knew the finances and all of the business part of it enough so that when you're 70 years old and you don't feel like performing in front of 80,000 people, that you can go back and that investment that you put in that bank 80 when you were 30 and that you could survive. We have to teach our young kids about that. The value of zero. The value of zero. Zero does mean nothing except when you have a number, another number in front of it. So 30 is 30. If you add another zero, that means I'm getting paid 300 and another 1,000, right? Tens of thousands, millions. And all you're doing is adding zeros. The thing that you think means nothing. The thing that you think means nothing. Kids don't know how to write checks anymore. They don't do that, right? Everything is paid through the app. The power of writing your own check and seeing it real. That's the
Tangible.
money. Tangible. I love that the world is moving the way it's moving in a digital way. I just hope we hold on to some things that make us understand what's real. And a checkbook is very real.
So with all the hard work that you do all the time, constantly, 24/7, when do you have time to ever visit Grenada?
All the time.
You make time for that.
I make time.
How often often do you go now?
A lot. I think this year I've been home 3 times already. You know, you got to make time for your own happiness. Grenada makes me happy.
That's important.
Grenada is my therapist. I make all my big decisions in Grenada. When I was leaving Sony, I went to Grenada for 7 days, and my sister Curl woke me up every morning at 7, and by 8 o'clock I was in her car, and she dropped me up at the beach, and she went to work, and she came back at 5 o'clock and picked me up. I made friends with the Rasta guy that was cutting my coconut. I made friends with the roti woman. I made friends with the woman who was braiding people's hair. And after the 6th day, I knew that I had to leave. And all I did was sit there and watch the waves. Grenada feeds my soul. It feeds my soul. It feeds my heart. I'm not a fish out of water in Grenada. I'm just another girl from Birch Grove who understands the value of the soil. You know, so I make the time. I'd rather turn down a trip to work with a client and get someone to help me. And if I feel the need, anytime I feel shaky,
you go to Grenada.
Yeah, and thank God for JetBlue. They should take an ad on your show because they've made it very easy. You get to JFK and in 4.5 hours I'm home. I usually travel with a swimsuit either in my carry-on or on my body, and usually try to make my first stop at Grenada.
And I understand that you're also like an ambassador.
I'm a tourism ambassador. Yes. Yeah, I got pinned. I got pinned the last time I was there by a few wonderful ladies from the Grenada Tourism Authority, GTA, and that was special. They surprised me. They surprised me and pinned me. And
how did that feel?
Oh, I cried like a baby. Nakoran, I think is her name. The lady who pinned me, wonderful lady, said to me, "You are your grandfather's dream, Yvette."
That's so deep.
In the middle of the kitchen.
Wow.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. You work a lifetime to be recognized for being yourself, simply being you. And in between that, setting out to work a lifetime and being recognized, you morph into things that you shouldn't be. You become things that other people expect you to be. And then on that journey, you find that the best thing you were was yourself. And you just go back to being you. There was a time at Sony where I had to be hard. I didn't want to be that sensitive girl because I didn't want them to think I was weak. And now I cry easily. I am emotional.
I think that's very healthy.
Well, I really believe that if you want the true Yvette, you have to be willing to accept my passion with my sensitivity, because it makes who I am. It's the ingredient that makes this oil down. It is. My passion is the breadfruit, you know, and I can't change back now. I'm too old and too seasoned and too much of Dennis Noel's child to turn back now. The Caribbean dream for me is the ladder that has many, many steps, that proves to you that you can keep climbing. When you look up, you're not supposed to see that first step. You're not supposed to see it. You're supposed to just keep going. And as you keep going, there's even more steps being added. Because it means every time you reach a goal, you could prove to yourself that there is a bigger goal. Ultimately, though, for me, my Caribbean dream is not just for myself. It's for those who came before me and those who will come and have come after me. because my legacy is already here. I'm already a grandma, and she's here. So my dream is for her too. The biggest part of the dream and that ladder is to climb to the very top and feel really, really happy, and to throw the ladder back down. Always throw the ladder back down. So another Caribbean girl with a flat nose and high cheekbones and ribbons in her hair could climb. That's it for me.
And you're living that dream.
I'm trying my best.
You're doing an incredible job doing it.
Thank you.
So could you just take a moment to think about some young child, boy, girl, living on an island in the Caribbean who's watching the show right now, or just somebody dreaming and feeling like maybe they're struggling. What's the best advice that you could give to that person? And just look into that camera and speak to them.
Oh, yes. I will say to you, come really close to this face. Look at this nose. Look at this mouth. Listen to my accent. Listen, listen. You can sound just like me, and you can look just like me, and you can be anything you want to be. Here's what I'm going to tell you. People tell you to dream big. I'm going to tell you one step further. Dream wide. Take your dreams to the front steps in your home in the Caribbean, all the way to the world that is so much bigger. Dream beyond your shores, and don't change anything about you to fulfill that dream. Just the things that are the most salient to you. Hard work, be good to people, find your tribe, be a good member of the tribe, give back to people. Don't change a thing about you. Love you first. Love you first, everything about you. This and that and that and this accent. Love yourself first.
That was so amazing. I had the best time with you today.
I had the best time with you.
Thank you so much for joining us on Caribbean Dream.
I have something for you.
No way.
I do.
Really? What
yes, and we can turn off the camera, but I want to give it to you on camera.
Sure.
Because I have to go up to get it. Hold on a second. I have something for you. Hold on a second. We're talking about kings and queens and dreaming. I have something very special for you.
This is unexpected.
I thought about it. Actually, when we were sitting down. I don't want to.
Should I close my eyes so you can get down the stairs? Should I open my eyes?
Open your eyes.
Okay.
Well, you're not going to see that. So I have to tell you what this is.
Okay.
So, when you meet a young woman who shows the ability to be bigger, to dream bigger, and to dream wider, you have to tell her that. You have to acknowledge her beauty, her mind, and her soul. I love Africa. I love the continent of Africa, and I haven't seen a lot of Africa. I've seen South Africa, I've seen a little bit of West Africa, and a lot of East Africa. When I went to South Africa the first time, it was 1996, and I bumped into a man. I was really jet-lagged, the way I am now. And I bumped into this man, like literally I went to a function and I came out of the car and I bumped into this man and I said, I'm so sorry. And when I looked up, it was Nelson Mandela.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, how did this girl from Birch Grove, of all the people in South Africa I could literally bump into and almost, I'm like, how did his bodyguards allow that to happen? And then I became really good friends with his grandson. And so that built my love for South Africa. He was a Xhosa, and there are many tribes, but I actually fell in love with the Ndebele people. They are the colorful people of South Africa. they wear the rings, like every time a girl particularly does something magnificent that touches you, you give her something. You give her something, and it marks to her where she met you, what that journey was. So I'm going to give you this piece.
Oh my goodness.
From the Entail Baileys in South Africa.
This is so special.
And it just goes around your neck.
Thank you.
And there's a little bit of a hook, but and that's it.
I love it.
And
I'm going to treasure this for the rest of my life.
I wear it a lot with black because then it just kind of sticks out. But
Oh
yeah.
my God, I love it. Thank you so much,
You're so
Yvette.
welcome.
This is so sweet of you.
You're so welcome.
Oh my gosh, this
Enjoy
has
it.
been like the best day of my life.
I'm so happy. This was special for me. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh my gosh,
And
I'm
you
never
have
going to
the
forget
same little
this.
nose that I have.
I'm never going to forget this day.
Oh,
Drop the mic.
thank you so much. You're amazing.
Well, this has been one incredible episode of Caribbean Dream. Thank you so much for joining us, Yvette.
Of course.
I want to thank Tempo for having me, and I'll see you on the next episode of Caribbean Dream.